Welcome to the Programming Lions podcast. Today, Chrissy Clark is with us, independent journalist, Turning Point contributor, host of the Underreported Stories podcast, social media influencer, and more. This was such a fun interview. Buckle up. Let's get into it. Chrissy Clark, we are excited to have you on the Programming Lions podcast. You have a background in Turning Point contributor.
Yep.
And then you also run your own podcast called Underreported Stories.
Yes, sir.
And so we want to hear more about all of that. Maybe you can just give us a minute on your background and how you got to doing the work that you're doing. And then the boys have cultivated some really great questions for you.
Ooh, good. I can't wait. I got started when I not this young, but I was 18 years old when I got involved with Turning Point USA, which is back in 2016. So very much at the forefront of politics with Donald Trump coming into office and all of that. I got involved at a chapter level, and I knew I wanted to be in media. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to dive all in, and I'm learning in this era of my life. I'm not going to be, we didn't really have TikTok. Instagram was so new. It's not like people were doing reels. That didn't exist.
Yeah.
So everything that I thought I wanted to do, I thought was going to be in traditional media. And then in 2019, I was actually told by a company that I was working for not to use TikTok. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I should look into this TikTok thing. If someone's telling you not to use it, that's usually where I go.
Yeah,
like,
right? Okay.
Just a rule breaker. It's how I've always operated. Don't take my advice. Don't do that, okay?
Yeah. Max knows all about that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I did that. I went on TikTok and I just started talking about stories that I thought were underreported. Stories that if you turned into CNN, MSNBC, or Fox, you just weren't hearing about or not hearing about a lot.
Right.
And I woke up one day with 100,000 followers, and I had no clue. I just had videos going viral left and right.
Wow.
Because people were craving authentic talking about the news, and I just did it on my phone, like very low budget editing and everything. And over the years, as I got more developed, I got a studio, started doing it long form, and turned it into a career. And this year I went fully independent. So
wow.
Yeah, but I've always had Turning Point.
Maybe we can get some tips, guys. We're trying to grow our channel.
Tips and tricks.
Yes.
Well, very cool.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us more about your podcast?
Yeah. So, again, those were the underreported stories that I was just doing on TikTok. I then turned it into a long-form podcast, and it's taken a really long time to shape what it was. But if I could give you guys any advice over the years, it's just when you're young, and again, I'm not as young as you, but I'm still young, okay?
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah,
you are.
just-
I can verify you're still young.
For it. They're
a lot more than me.
Yeah. They're looking at me like, who's this old lady? But I would always listen to other people, and I was like, oh, I want to be the next Megyn Kelly or something.
Sure.
So I'd always consume Megyn Kelly. And I kind of one day woke up and realized I can't be the best Chrissy if I'm trying to be Megyn.
Right.
So I stopped listening to podcasts last year, and all of a sudden, my own views and my own opinions, which weren't always popular with the people that I talk to, I just have no problem doing it now because I actually know that behind closed doors, I believe it, and I'm going to say what I believe.
Okay.
And I found that all of a sudden the audience started coming because they weren't watching Chrissy trying to pretend to be Megyn, they were watching Chrissy just being herself.
Right.
And people, they come clamoring to people that want to be real.
Yeah, authenticity is important in social media, I think.
Well,
So-
yeah, and can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
Do you guys feel like you're better than your parents are at snuffing out authenticity? Like you just kind of know who the normal, the cool, like you have like you can see it on a phone. Because your dad and I are probably like, I feel like it's not as easy for us to snuff it out because we weren't really around the internet as much. But these guys, I'm just so curious, like do you feel like it's easy to be like, oh, that person's just selling me something when you're on the phone?
Wait, selling you
Not
something?
just on the phone.
Yeah.
I do realize that a lot. Like here, basically, a lot of the people
People
that
are
come
trying to
here
sell
are
stuff.
just- they're not here for the actual stuff. They're here to sell us something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
And
only
you
want the money.
Right, but you guys can snuff that out. When we were that age, we didn't really have, that wasn't on our radar.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting.
It's a good skill to learn.
Cool.
You gotta learn to hone your instincts and people reading skills because there's a lot of that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, about their podcast.
Yeah.
So how do you find your stories? Because obviously you said they're not on CNN and Fox and stuff.
Yeah.
And how do you decide what you do want to cover?
Yeah, great question. I definitely start by going and watching CNN, MSNBC, and Fox so I can make sure that whatever I cover is not being covered. And I read a lot of left-wing news outlets. I read Axios, Politico, all the boring, awful people.
Oh.
I do go and read, and then I've worked at a lot of these places. I went and I worked for the Federalist. There's a place called the Washington Free Beacon. It's not as popularized, but you know a lot of the people that work there. You know, we've all done our kind of due diligence there, and it's a great place to work, probably one of my favorite. I went to the Daily Wire, I went to the Daily Caller. I kind of worked at all the places. So then I go where I know I've been in the industry long enough, and I'm like, I know that you wouldn't know his name, but Aaron Sabarium over at the Washington Free Beacon does good, honest reporting. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so I'm going to follow Aaron, and I just kind of know these people. And I'm like, and I trust his reporting, and I know he's done his due diligence on it, so I can take it at face value without having to do all this research, because I'm a one-woman operation over here. You guys get it, being in like media like this. It's a lot of work. So I try to find reporters that I can trust and then continually go back and see what their work is. Really, my show, yes, it's called Underreported Stories, but it's just giving coverage to really good journalists who aren't getting the credence in the industry.
Okay. And so when you find a story and you cover it on your podcast and maybe promote it through social media and bring awareness to it, do you then get brought into other outlets like Daily Wire to cover the story for them or kind of help them bring exposure to it on their platform, or how does that work?
I mean, most of these places have much bigger platforms than me. They don't necessarily need me. It's more of rounding it up from multiple news sources. So I'll do one from the Daily Caller, two from the New York Post, one from the Free Beacon, all these places, and I kind of put it all together because you can go get that story at the Daily Wire and then one from the Post and one from, the Free Beacon.
Yeah.
But you don't get it all in one spot. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop of like aggregating. And I think it's really hard to do anything other than aggregating when you're a one-woman show, but it's really an aggregation of all those stories and finding the ones that interest me, because I'm just looking to make friends. Like, that's really all I'm doing. I'm like, hey, I like it, maybe you will too.
Yeah, and you take from liberal outlets as well and try to marry up like what is really happening.
Yeah, yes, to a degree, but also sometimes outlets, generally speaking, can be bad. That those bad outlets have good journalists. And very recently I was just doing an aggregation, and I was like, you know what? I went and I read the New York Post, and I read the Free Beacons, and I read CNN's, and CNN's was the best. It's just true. And so I go and I'm like, you know what? This aggregation is the best. We're going to read it because it gives the most details, the most facts. I'm going to use that. So I don't really care too much where it comes from. I just need to trust the journalist that's doing it, not necessarily the outlet or entity.
Right. Okay.
I like
All right,
that.
so moving away from this topic, what's it like leading a turnip chapter at a liberal college?
Yeah. So when I was in college.
Is it in Michigan?
Yeah, I went to Michigan State. It was a really fun time. We're very bad at sports now. but we were really good when I was there.
Yeah, Max. Remember they used to have a good football team.
Michigan.
Michigan State, but
Didn't it have J.J. McCarthy and then we picked it up?
That's Michigan.
Oh.
We're the other one. We're the green one.
yeah,
Green one.
you know the Spartans.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
thought
you know,
it was like the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah,
No, those are our rivals.
I mean, they used to have really strong football, but they've had a few tough years. So
Yeah. Won't
anyway,
get into why.
but moving on to your turning point chapter.
Yeah, that's what I did. I kickstarted a chapter at school, and I just got involved, and it was a blast. Like, really, it was just fun getting to run it. It's not like a high pressure, high stake thing, but it just taught me why I believed the things I believed. I think I was really quick in my youth to jump and label myself as a Republican and not really realize why I was that. And so in college, I spent that time trying to understand, why do I believe the things I believe instead of believing things and coming to a conclusion? I kind of did it backwards. I believe what I believe now
So you
because I
came
have
back
done.
to the point where you thought you were.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
I went full circle. I don't identify as a Republican anymore. I'm an independent, but I'm conservative, so I definitely tend to vote Republican.
Yeah.
Someone has to earn my vote. I don't just dole out my vote because you have an R next to your name.
Yeah, we have a similar belief. Obviously, like lately, I feel like Democrats are so far this way that there's no option. But we talk a lot about our conservative values, even on our channel. And, you know, you get the face of conservative kid. He's been sort of labeled conservative kid now online. But we talk about conservative values, and that doesn't necessarily mean Republican. It means that, yes, we probably match up more with those ideas and policies more so, but it doesn't mean that we promote and endorse everything that they do. And so that's why I think people got to get over that. Even in liberalism, there's a lot of good aspects to liberalism, but then when you go to actual politicians, the ideas and everything can be vastly
Well, my liberal
really
friends
different.
have like the kindest, sweetest hearts.
Sure.
We just have. It used to be we used to have different ways of coming to fix a mutual problem. We could agree on the mutual problem, and we just have different ways of coming to a solution. And when it comes to like the economy, I think we can agree on that.
Yep.
Unfortunately, when it comes to some of these like really difficult issues like transgenderism or something, like we don't even recognize what the
Far
same
apart.
what the same problem is. And so I think that's where it's the cultural issues that are really pulling us apart.
Yeah, I agree. And then even on the economy, we both kind of want the same outcomes, but different methods to get there.
Right. Yeah.
And some are. Yeah.
Ours is right, but that's fine.
It is. It promotes more personal accountability versus handouts, but we do think it's interesting, and we talk about that a bit. But the social issues are where I feel like just sort of leagues apart, and I don't know how to get back. I don't know how to get back. We're gonna try to have different guests of different sides on our podcast to see if we can bring some common ground, but it's difficult.
I do feel like revolutionizing women is actually a really good place to start. Obviously, our young men are getting more and more conservative, and it's awesome to see them grow and blossom in this way. But young women are being disaffected to the left time and time again.
Yeah.
And I would never advocate for pro-choice positions, but I've been saying time and time again that the pro-choice movement is actually going to become one of the best things for conservatism because it's based on lies. And the second that somebody does any research on being pro-choice, they wake up and realize, oh my gosh, I'm being lied to like a lot. Like not a little, like a lot. There was a whole campaign telling young women that if Roe versus Wade got overturned, abortion would be illegal nationwide. And people still think that to this day.
Yes,
and so when they go and do research, it's like a red pill moment for them. So I'm like, yes, of course the pro-choice movement is not my cup of tea, but they're going to be red pilling a generation of women. Just give it time.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that's my predictions.
You are, I guess let's say, famous for breaking the Dr. Seuss story. And so I'd like you to tell me, is Dr. Seuss a bigot?
No. Oh my gosh.
Is the good doctor a bigot?
I know. That was one of the craziest days of my life. I tweeted, I don't like wokeness here or there. I don't like wokeness anywhere. And I woke up with 30,000 followers. I was like, for one tweet.
That's a clever tweet, though.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm proud of it. But yeah, it was a wild story to break. But that was work I was doing. I think I was at the Daily Wire. I was at the Free Beacon or the Daily Wire. I forget where I was. But yeah, I mean, that was a wild story to break. But I really miss doing that, like on the ground journalism and having that. But that was such a fun time in my life because it was a student that tipped me off to that. So you guys be vigilant in what you're doing and find a reporter. You can always message me. Your dad can always message me. But yeah, you got to keep your ears to the ground on the crazy things you see at these public schools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you feel like your schools are really liberal?
Yes.
Not a lot.
At least my grade, like 5th grade is kind of.
Oh, the
Fifth
people
grade's
in your
really
grade.
liberal.
We don't allow politics at school, but sometimes I
Good
debate.
school.
Yeah.
I normally debate some people on the liberal side.
So you're saying that it's more the kids in your class are more liberal, but
a lot of
the
them.
teachers, because we actually really like the school. We're at a charter school, and they're pretty neutral. They don't get into politics
it.
until high school. They have some things that the kids can get involved with, but it's pretty neutral. What do you think, Will, being in 7th grade?
A lot of the teachers are neutral. Like they basically did not react at all after the election.
Nonetheless, you're right, like keeping your ear to the ground, because sometimes when your gut tells you something and your instincts like that's not quite right, then really think about it. Trust your instincts, because sometimes your mind sees things that you can't quite articulate or wrap into, and then bring it up to somebody. Be like, hey, did you see that? Does that make sense? And invariably you'll get to a good answer. What?
I have a gut feeling every time I eat.
Yeah, I know you do, Max. Yeah.
Make your gut more happy with you.
Yeah.
Look at your little Make America Healthy again.
Yeah. Well, in fact, we're going to have somebody on to talk about that in more detail later today, which will be fun. That's been a movement that we've been following really closely. Yeah. And actually, that maybe brings us a good question from your perspective, as being a little bit, more like journalist, independent.
Yeah.
MAHA has been this polarizing, partisan thing, and we can't really figure out why, because one person says something that makes sense but is healthy. It's become a partisan thing because it's coming from Trump's campaign, perhaps.
It's a resistance to change, though. Like, you're not your average person, you go on the street and you ask your average liberal, they're most bought into Trump and Republicanism over the Make America Healthy movement.
Yeah.
I actually think it's just like the very online fatty people, and like these are people, sorry, I shouldn't be that mean.
It's okay.
Judgmental, but
We've heard much worse.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like these fat women in their 30s that are unmarried that want to go on a tirade online, okay, let them. And it's actually elite institutions that, again, they like the way the status quo is. They like the way they make money. They don't want to change it. And so they're going to buy people off. Like, take, for instance, in San Francisco, they just hired a fat consultant to help with weight neutrality or something like that. I don't even know what that means.
I don't even know what that is
but they hired it using taxpayer dollars to fund this position, and she's actually funded by Big Pharma. She's anti-Ozempic. She thinks that keeping people fat is a good thing. She wrote a book called You Have the Right to Remain Fat, and we know that obesity causes a litany of health problems, specifically diabetes.
It's the lion's share of our healthcare goes towards obesity.
No, exactly, but people are trying to keep us that way, and so I think it's a handful of people that scream really loud. I actually do not believe your average. It's the same thing with the trans issue. I don't believe your average liberal believes that he can become a girl.
Yeah, it's wild. Max, you gonna want to be a girl? No?
No, I do not want to be
good?
gay.
Max?
Yeah, I'm
You're
chilling.
good?
I'm
You're
chilling
good?
as a boy.
Your pronouns now.
Yeah.
Her.
So when you cover
She.
when you cover some of these controversial topics, you must get a lot of, well, let's say, aggressive people coming in on your social media threads and comment sections. Tell us a little bit about that. How do you deal with it? Rationalize it? Do you take any of it seriously? What?
No, if you don't know my heart, you don't know my position,
Yeah.
like my actual who I am outside of politics, which I'm actually not a very political person. Like, my day-to-day life is hanging out with my husband, my golden retriever, and going to church. That is my life, and I don't really dabble in politics with my friends. It's my job. I do. He's perfect. The
Max
most
loves
perfect.
dogs.
Oh my goodness. I'll have to show you a video after. He's so cute. But that's my day-to-day life. So if you don't know me in that day-to-day capacity, or we don't have an actual friendship, then your opinion doesn't matter to me.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe it's just the way I'm built, but I just really don't care. I scroll through it. I also try to I think a lot of people in like influencer roles, like they have a lot of followers and they think like, oh, people just follow me. Like, I like being relational with the people that follow me because I'd rather have 100,000 really engaged followers that actually like me than a million who are just passively watching.
Yeah.
So in my community, like, we actually have conversation. I have like little Discord groups and stuff like that. It's on Instagram where we actually chat, and like I will respond to people's comments, and then once my video hits, I kind of make my threshold like in between like 15 to 20,000 views, I stop responding because you just never know what's going to come with that.
Yeah.
But the people that are initially responding in that first like hour to 5 hours are people that really like you, that tune into your stuff, and I want to be able to communicate with them.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to listen to people that just say nasty stuff for the sake of saying nasty stuff.
Yeah. What's wrong,
We
Max?
get plenty
I
of that.
hate nasty comments.
Yeah, we get a lot
Dad,
of
for
that.
some reason, something I think, Dad, you really need to work on.
I do.
Is stop
It's
looking
just like
at the
stop
comments
looking at
every
them
time.
every single 10 minutes.
Well,
That's well, Dad's building your
like-
channel for you, and you do need to
I
do
know.
that.
I know, but like,
I'm just
I
being
don't think
honest,
you
'cause
really
he
need to
always-
look at the comments like every like 10 minutes of your life.
oh yeah, okay.
Well, not
okay.
only that, you
Now I'm
look at
fearful to have kids.
you look
They're gonna
at-
do this to me.
you look at all the bad comments all the time.
It gives you insight to the way people are thinking. I like that about it. But yes, there's a lot of trolls, and I think to your point, we have some people who really enjoy what we do, and they
Yeah.
jump in right away. They have a notification, we just posted, so they get a notification. They'll jump in and view and have something to say. But then there's this cesspool of other people that come in and
Yeah.
have-
I call them the Yelpers because people go onto Yelp. I've only ever gone onto Yelp to complain about a bad situation, and they're Yelpers. They just want to come and they want to complain. And the good people, like, you don't go on and be like, "This was the best experience of my life," like, unless it was like
Yes.
the 1 in a million reviews you do. So
Usually, if you like it, you heart, boom,
yep, and
you're
move
on.
on.
Yeah.
I know.
And so,
So
you're
it's
not
not as
getting-
much gratification, but why are we taking our gratification from the internet? You know?
Yeah, I like what you said earlier, though, in terms of who you seek advice from. Somebody wise, or maybe I saw a quote, but they said, like, if you wouldn't seek advice from someone, why would you care what they say about you?
I've always thought the people that don't like me, I'm like, I would never want to live your life anyway, so why am I
Yeah.
offended? Why do I care what you think of me?
Yeah. Most of them, when you look at their profiles, it's pretty sad, actually.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, why don't we move on to a few rapid fire questions?
Yeah.
Huh?
All right,
Huh? I
shoot
think
me,
Chrissy will
let's go.
like this.
Okay, so you just gotta answer the questions as fast as possible
Okay.
with no explanation.
Okay.
Yeah. Ready,
Okay.
guys?
This is my favorite podcast ever.
Oh, thank you.
You just earned a new subscriber.
Nice.
Perfect.
From me.
We
need it.
Yeah.
We'll start in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, what's the coolest invention in your lifetime?
In my lifetime? If I say Google, is that awful? ChatGPT.
Okay, that's a good one.
If you had one executive order as president, what would it be?
End all abortion.
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
I don't want to fly. Yeah. But only at like a mediocre level. Like I don't want to be up in the sky high. Just like a couple feet. I'm afraid of heights.
Okay. Fair enough.
Would you rather fight a 1,000-pound duck or 1,001-pound ducks?
A bunch of little, a bunch of little ducks.
Bunch
Yeah.
of little
Okay.
ones?
Yeah.
What is the best book you've ever read?
Two Income Trap by Elizabeth Warren.
Okay. Would you rather die from a great white shark or flaming hot volcano?
Great white shark.
It'd be a good meal.
I have one last one. So, have you ever been stuck in a bathroom stall without
vegan.
toilet paper?
Absolutely, but in girls' bathrooms, we're homies, and I just said, hey, can someone help
do
me
the-
out? Yeah, you do a little toss under.
Ours is just like, if
They're
you
the best.
ask, they're like, ha, you don't have toilet paper, and there's like,
Yeah.
And a men's room is very different. You're like, sorry, loser.
yeah, and then they just start like banging on the stall, saying
Yeah.
like,
You'll meet your best friends in a
Yeah.
girls' bathroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah, Max has had, unfortunately, he doesn't look. But
He
here-
loves doing that question, but this time I stole it from him.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, that concludes Rapid Fire. Thank you for entertaining
Of
us with that.
course.
And with that, we'll kind of wrap up the podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
And we appreciate what you're doing. Keep up the great journalist work.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll definitely be following your work, and we wish you all
And
the success.
Ditto now. Ditto, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
you.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.